I put $300 into my first investment account at 24. The next morning, I checked it like I was expecting a miracle. The market had given me 47 cents. 47 cents? I found more change in my couch the night before. So I kept going. $300 a month, every single month. After 6 months, I had $1,800 in contributions and $60 in gains. $60 for 6 months of watching my paycheck disappear. After a full year, the gains totaled $150. I could have earned that working one weekend shift at a coffee shop. I stared at the app and thought, the math must be broken. The people who talk about compounding must be lying. I almost pulled every dollar out and bought a vacation. That vacation would have cost me $800,000. And that is what this video is actually about. Compounding is not lying to you. It is just honest in a way that feels like an insult. When they say your money grows exponentially, they are technically correct. What they do not tell you is that exponential includes a very long, boring beginning. A beginning that looks nothing like growth. It looks like nothing at all. It looks like your money sitting there doing almost nothing while you starve it with sacrifice. Here's the actual math. You put $500 a month into a total market index fund. Historical S&P 500 average return is about 10% annually over the last 100 years. After year one, you have contributed $6,000. Your balance is $6,300. The market gave you $300. That is your reward for an entire year. $300 in 2026 is about 2 weeks of groceries. It is nothing. It feels insulting. After year 3, you have put in $18,000. Your balance is around $20,900. The market added $2,900 over 3 years. You could have earned that in a couple of extra shifts. Compounding feels like a rounding error. After year 5, you have contributed $30,000. Your balance is roughly $39,000, about $9,000 in market gains, which averages to just $150 a month in returns for 5 years of patience. Meanwhile, your coworker spent everything, bought a new TV, and seems perfectly fine. He actually looks happy. You start wondering if he is the smart one. This is the moment where most people stop. Fidelity data shows that the median 401k balance for workers under 35 is just $16,000. Most of them started and then slowed down, or started and stopped entirely. Because the first few years of compounding feel like shoveling sand into the ocean. Every article says start early and let compound interest do the work. Then you start early and compound interest shows up in pajamas and takes a 2-hour lunch. You feel deceived. You feel like this is designed only for people who already have money, but here's what nobody explains. Compounding is not linear. It operates on a curve that starts nearly flat for years. Then at one specific point it rips vertical so fast it will genuinely shock you. The question is, where is that point? What is the number where compounding stops feeling useless? The answer, based on the math, is $100,000. $100,000 in invested assets is the tipping point, the threshold, the bend in the curve. At $100,000 invested, a 10% market return gives you $10,000 without a single additional contribution. That is $833 a month in passive growth while you sleep. At $500 a month in contributions, Your money now earns almost twice what you put in. The student has surpassed the teacher. The investment is now the engine. Compare that to year one. $6,000 invested, earning just $25 a month. Same market, same percentage. Completely different experience because the base changed. This is what your brain gets wrong every time about percentages. 10% of $6,000 is $600. 10% of $100,000 is $10,000. 10% of $500,000 is $50,000. The percentage does not change. The experience of the percentage changes everything. Your first years feel pointless because 10% of a small number is a small number. The only variable that changed is how long you held on. Let me show you this with real numbers. Take a woman named Tara. She is 25 and invests $500 a month. At 30, after 5 years, she has $39,000. Gains, $9,000. It still feels slow. At 35, after 10 years, she has $104,000. She crossed the threshold. Gains are now $44,000. Almost equal to her contributions. The curve is bending. At 40, after 15 years, her balance is $208,000. She put in $90,000. The market generated $118,000. Gains have surpassed contributions. The freight train has left the station, and she is not driving it anymore. At 45, after 20 years, her balance is $380,000. She contributed $120,000. The market generated $260,000, more than double. At 55, after 30 years, she has $1.1 million on only $180,000 in contributions. The market generated over $900,000. For every dollar she put in, compounding added 3 more. Tara became a millionaire on $500 a month, on a habit that felt completely useless for the first 5 years. If she had quit at year 3 when her balance was $20,900, she would have lost $1.1 million. That is not a metaphor. That is the actual math of quitting during the boring years. Now meet Jordan. He waits until 35 to start. Same $500 a month. Same 10% return. At 55, his balance is $380,000. The same number Tara hit at 45, 10 years earlier. The only difference is that Tara started 10 years sooner. Those 10 years added $720,000 to her final balance. $720,000 just for starting earlier. Time is not poetry in personal finance. Time is a mathematical weapon. Here is why the front end feels so unbearable. It is not just about the numbers. Your brain prefers smaller rewards now over larger rewards later. $1 today feels worth more than $2 10 years from now. This is called hyperbolic discounting. It is wired into your neurology. It is not a character flaw. It is a survival mechanism. When you invest $500 and see it become $523, your brain runs a cost-benefit analysis. You sacrificed $500 of real things you wanted right now. You received $23 you cannot touch for decades. Your brain concludes this is a terrible deal. The second force working against you is social comparison. Your friend spent $500 on restaurants and trips. He has photos, a tan, new shoes. You have a brokerage statement showing a few thousand in gains you cannot spend. Who looks like they are winning? Your friend does. Every time for years. The third force is the absence of feedback. At the gym, you see changes in weeks. On an instrument, you hear progress in months. When you invest, there is almost no perceptible feedback for years. It is like going to the gym every day for 2 years and looking exactly the same, then waking up one morning with the body of an Olympic athlete. That is compounding. So, how do you survive the boring years? Automation and identity. Automation removes the decision, identity removes the temptation. Set up an automatic transfer the day after your paycheck hits. The money leaves before you see it, before you feel it, before your brain discounts it. Increase your 401k contribution by 1% today. You will never feel 1% missing. That 1% compounded over decades could represent an additional $100,000 or more. Identity is deeper. The question is not, should I invest this month? The question becomes, am I a person who invests? When investing becomes part of your identity, the boring years stop feeling like sacrifice. Every automatic transfer becomes a vote for the person you are becoming. Here's the number that breaks the curve entirely. Getting from $0 to $100,000 takes roughly 10 years. You do most of the work. Getting from $100,000 to $200,000 takes about 5 years. The market does twice your work. Getting from $200,000 to $400,000 takes 5 more years. The market does 6 times your work. Getting from $400,000 to $1 million takes 6 years. You contribute only $36,000, while the market adds $564,000. The first $100,000 took 10 years. The last $600,000 took 6. The beginning is slow. The end is violent. The people who quit in year 3 make the most expensive mistake of their lives. They quit during the only part of the journey where quitting feels rational. The curve always bends, but only for people who are still there when it does.